Welcome to Marketing Without the Marketing. I'm your host, Michael Bosey, and I'm very glad to be back at the mic for a new season of the show. And got a bunch of great stuff planned for you this year over the coming months. It was really good to get a little break. I hadn't published an episode in, it's been about 6 weeks or so, I think. So anyway, feels really good to be back. All right. A couple things to update you on about the show and the coming season. One, I'm going to cut down on my publishing schedule a little bit. I think I'm going to publish about every other week rather than once every week, or let's see, maybe I'll do it about 3 times a month or so. The goal here is just to lessen the load. I've had a huge amount of client work lately, and I want to produce really good episodes for you, so just cutting down the workload on that, I think, would be a good thing. But I got 2 great upcoming series for you based on questions that I get quite a lot, either from clients, prospective clients, or the companies that I mentor. 2 things. One, I shot a series about starting a business it sort of functions as a case example where I can really pull back the curtain on my own business and my process starting from day one until now. Just wanted to help those people who are just starting, get a lot of queries about this, and I thought, hey, if I can help, awesome, let's do that. Second thing is a series on SEO for small business. SEO is search engine optimization. I've been doing a ton of this for clients. It's one of my most requested services just because I have a particular spin on it. I believe it's more of a writing issue, more of a human issue than a tech issue. And so I'm going to do a pretty deep dive on that. So if you're interested in getting your site to show up in search a lot better and just perform better in the eyes of almighty Google, you're definitely going to want to follow this. So, all right, so I'm going to spend a bunch of time on each of these 2 series, but of course, I'll also sprinkle in some other stuff, to keep you up to date on, the things that are working and not working out there in the real world, in my own hands-on practice of using content strategy every day, and of course, what's happening out there with regard to big changes, platform changes, etc. So that leads me to the topic of this episode. Got to start with Facebook, right? They're making a huge algorithm change that's going to be rolled out over the coming months. And as I previewed in an episode called Facebook is Headed for Trouble last season, I left a link in the show notes for you. Facebook was testing some new changes outside the US in late 2017, and now they've enacted these changes. So here's what's happening. In summary, Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Facebook, says he's going to fix Facebook. This came in the form of what he calls a personal challenge, which he delivered via the platform on January 4th. Quoting Mark Zuckerberg from this statement, Facebook has a lot of work to do, whether it's protecting our community from abuse and hate, defending against interference by nation states, or making sure that time spent on Facebook is time well spent. Seems like a pretty good goal, you would think, given all of the flack that Facebook has gotten recently, and deservedly so, for not paying attention to some of these issues, and now maybe the spotlight's on it. And given the fact that people spend an average of 50 minutes a day on Facebook, not a bad thing to try to attack. Okay, so why is he doing this? Well, look, the abusive behavior that happens on the platform, and Twitter for that matter. I mean, this is not something that is just specific to Facebook, but it's a problem. The Russian ads, right? This is a story that has not fully been told yet, but the idea here is that Russian operatives used Facebook as it was intended to influence the U.S. Presidential election in 2016. Keep in mind, this was not hacking. This was not doing something that wasn't easy to do on Facebook already. This was purchasing ads for fairly low cost, given, measured against the outcome that was achieved. That's a problem, obviously. And not to mention, one of the bigger things that's starting to get reported now is just health issues. I covered this a little bit in the episode that I referenced, but there's now a lot of studies that show that Facebook usage is tied to feeling depressed, feeling disappointed, just all sorts of mental health issues that come with living in a social media environment. And of course, look, that's not just Facebook's fault, but Facebook has over 2 billion users. So it certainly is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And, this has led me to some personal soul searching on this as well. And I wrote a post a few weeks ago called "Facebook is not the place for politics if you want to have an impact," because not only was I finding that it wasn't a great place to propagate my own writing, but also it's just not making me feel that good. I use the platform and I feel worse after it. And yeah, that's corroborated by research now, but I feel it personally too. And so I've sort of taken steps to curtail my own use of the platform this year. And, I'll keep you posted on that. So far, it's going pretty well. I don't really miss it. I haven't completely cut it off. I haven't deleted the app. I haven't, but I just don't open it. So, and so far, so good. I'll keep you posted on that. All right, so let's look at how Mark Zuckerberg actually plans to do that. It's been kind of short on detail, but does have a plan for this, right? So here's the upshot. Is basically the idea is to prioritize what he says are meaningful person-to-person interactions. In other words, your family and friends and whatnot. So in other words, more posts in the feed from your social graph. And one could presume that's going to be from folks who are deemed to be closer to you than more distant nodes on the social graph. Posts that seek advice or recommendations or things where people are asking for input. And news articles that prompt people to have conversations and, again, meaningful interactions, whatever that means. And posts that you might want to share. So Facebook is saying, listen, we're going to put more of that in the feed. And that sounds like, oh, wow, Facebook would be a little bit better for that, right? But here's what's going to happen on the reduction side of it. So in other words, you're going to see less content directly from business pages. And of course, if you listen to this podcast, you probably have an interest in this, right? I'll get to that in just a second. You'll also see presumably less video because in Zuckerberg's determination, it's deemed to be more passive and Facebook sees less conversation and comments on videos. And in general, what you're going to see is less overall reach, particularly for the business pages. And you think, okay, that's good. That might help enhance my experience on Facebook as a user. But here's the thing. In one fell swoop, Facebook is about to upset a lot of businesses and other media companies who've come to depend on it, right? And that can't be taken lightly. So who is Facebook for? Right? I mean, Zuckerberg seems to be drawing a line in the sand and saying, listen, we want this to be more about friends and family. Okay, but for you and me, for business owners, what are we going to do with this, right? Because these high-minded goals or these things to fix the platform or whatever, it may or may not work, but it's definitely going to have an effect on us. So 3 things that I think are going to happen that are pretty massive changes. And again, this is, these are my own opinions on this. This is not guaranteed by any means, but just in my experience, using the platform for myself, for clients, whatever, here's what I think is going to happen. Number 1, pretty well documented, organic reach is going to drop. Okay. This has been the case already with Facebook business pages, so this is not at all surprising. We're at about 12% organic reach in 2013. That went down to 8% in 2014. I saw probably with my own business at that time, down to about 9% or so, roughly. And then by 2015, 2016, it was about 5% or less. And that's been my observation too in my own data. And so now what they're saying is that organic reach is going to drop from about 5% to 4%. But some people think that that's going to be a lot more intense, myself included, particularly for the constituents that I serve, which is small businesses. I think we're going to see organic reach drop closer to zero, which is why some people are calling it Facebook zero. I just think it's going to be a lot harder to get your posts as a business page into people's feeds organically, which means you got to pay, right? So, second thing, the overall time spent on the platform is likely to go down. Now, keep in mind, Mark Zuckerberg himself said this, quoting him, he said, "By making these changes, I expect the time people spend on Facebook and some measures of engagement will go down." So kind of interesting that he's willing to go through with this, even though it might actually hurt performance on the platform. And you can imagine that this might be true because, well, look, I mean, if the algorithm changes, the types of posts that you see change, that's going to affect some constituency one way or the other, and not just business pages, right? So if you're seeing things that, you may not see all the posts that your friends post, and that's the case right now. But if the algorithm is prioritizing now only your close friends and family, for instance, or only those posts that seek advice or whatever, your post might not qualify now. And when you start to not get engagement and get into a cycle where you're not seeing that, you'll probably spend less time on it. So that's probably another effect that we're going to see. And then the big thing, I think, for businesses is I think you're going to see ad prices get a lot more expensive. I've said this before, Facebook, to me, is not a social media platform. It's an ad platform. And with this drop in organic reach over the past few years, now we take that down even further. And we're going to show, less business content. That's going to be more people flooding the market, trying to get ads, trying to get in front of people because they've come to depend on it. Well, guess what? That kind of demand is going to drive up the prices. So again, this is going to hurt small businesses because, hey, we're the ones who are not going to be able to afford, some six-figure budget on Facebook ads to drive people there. So that's going to get a lot more expensive for small businesses in particular. All right, so where does that leave us then? Well, I kind of look at this in two facets. The first, I don't think this is going to work. I don't think what Zuckerberg's trying to do is going to actually fix Facebook. And I think I'll defer that until the next episode just because I'm kind of running long now and there's a lot of reasons that I have. So next episode, let's get into that. But the bigger thing is, what are we going to do about this, right? Whether it works or not, you and I have got to prepare ourselves to weather this, especially if you've depended on Facebook to that point. So the biggest things you can start doing are, one, make sure you reduce your dependency on Facebook. So if you can be on another platform, great. If that's not been realistic for you to date, it's time to start. Right? I think a platform like Pinterest is going to have a breakout year in 2018. I plan to cover this in a future episode. Twitter, for me, is still my best channel. Try other things. Second thing, make sure that you are building your email list. Email is still the conversion instrument. If you have permission to be in someone's inbox, that's high-level permission and will serve you way better than Facebook ever can. And three, and probably the most important, is to get your SEO in order. Every single client profile of mine, what you see is, in terms of site traffic, which is what we all want, is ranked number one by a wide margin as SEO. Second is email. And then a distant third is social. And so you really want to make sure that you get that in order. And like I said at the start of this episode, I'm going to be doing an entire series on that. So subscribe so that I'll notify you once that's ready, and I'll teach you what I know. All right, so I think I'll stop there. Again, really glad to be back and really glad that you're here with me. Really appreciate your attention, and I look forward to a great season throughout 2018. Thanks again.